Very nice. Okay, we are up to the new parak for Hashem, and we're going to be learning about tzitzis. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Hat chelas, eino ma'akeves es halavan. We know that it says, there's no tzitzis hakonof psil tchelas. If you don't have that tchelas, it won't be ma'akev the lavan. Rashi says, v'yaf gav the mitzvah lo says tchelas beis chutin b'tzitzis. Even though you're supposed to put 2 chutin of tchelas in the tzitzis, kidim efarish likamon, like we're going to learn in the Gemara. Afilochi ein zeh ma'akev hazeh. V'ovid arba osan tchelas or arba osan lavan yotza. So Rashi just made a very big statement, because Rashi doesn't say if you were missing the 2 of tchelas and you only had the 2 of lavan, it will be good. Rashi says if you replaced the lavan, if you replaced the tchelas with the lavan, then it will be good. So that's something that we need to point out. Let's see the weiter in the Mishnah. Va'lavan eine makav es tchelas, tefila shal yad eine makav es shal roish, v'shal roish eine makav es shal yad. Either one is going to be a mitzvah for sich. Let's have just a quick look at Tosfos. Hatchelas eine makav es shal lavan. Mitzvah losses beis chuten tchelas u beis chuten lavan betzitzes. Umashma lechayra the ein zeh makav zeh, meaning shem hitl shnei chuten min echad yatsa. Just like the second case of the Mishnah, kihanach negatani tefillah shal yad eine makav shal roish. It doesn't mean if you put on 2 shal roishes. It means if you only did the shal roish, or if you only did the shal yad. So Pasha the Pshat in the Mishnah is not like what Rashi says, that you'd still need all 4. Avol b'kuntrus pirish yi'avar arba osan tchelas or arba osan lavan yotza. V'chein anu noihagin. That's how we do nowadays. We don't have tchelas. U'v'gemora morchiachein. I don't know how it works. But even one string is folded over, right? So it would be 2. But we have 4 times 2 is 8. So Tosfos gets into where all that comes from. So there's a whole shaila of the whole shabbos. Tosfos gets into a whole bunch of interesting svaros. But I will just go down to the bottom of here. Umash anu koiflin hadalid leches. That we only have 4. We only have 4, right? And we fold it over into 8, right? Because we put 4 through. Samkin nahod amin lekamon Reb Acha bar Yaakov Rami Dalid va'ayif lumayif umaylo hu beglima v'avaklu. So they would fold it over. So that's where we get it from. We can't go through the whole time now, but it's an interesting sugya. So let's see the Gemara weiter. Lema masnisin the Leiker Rebbe. The Mishnah that says that the tcheles and the lavan are not ma'akev each other would be inconsistent with Rebbe. The Tanya we learned, Re'isam oisoi malamed shema'akvin zeh. From there we learn that they were ma'akev one of the other. One is ma'akev the other. Divrei Rebbe. Ein ma'akev. My time with the Rebbe, what is the svara of Rebbe? Dichsiv hakanaf min kanaf. It says in the pasuk, I should really be able to quote the pasuk by heart without actually having to read it. Daber el b'nei shavamar talem v'zulam tzitzis al kam v'vigdem lo'yisam v'nosnu al tzitzis hakanaf pisil techelas. So hakanaf means min kanaf. It should be the same material or color or both. We'll have to see what that means. It has to be the same thing that's on the knaf, meaning the same thing that the beged's made out of. Uchsiv psil techelas, and then it says psil techelas, which means it should be psil techelas no matter what the beged is made out of. The Amar Achmana on this combination of min kanaf and psil techelas, or isam oisai ad ikat avayu b'chad. You have to see them all as one gedil, and that's how you have the mitzvah of tzitzis. Zok Rashi, min kanof, hainu lavan. That would be white. So Rashi clearly is saying here that it's the color we're talking about. The roiv talisa shall pishtin hainu ulavanos, because most talisais are pishtim and lavan. So Rashi is making a massive statement over here. What Rashi is saying is, when it says min kanof, it means white. You know why? Because most talisais are pishtan, and most of them are white. So that's what the Torah is saying. Meaning, even if you had a green baguette, you're supposed to make it white, based on what roiv are. Now that's going to come very much into play on the base. Tchelas tzemar tzavua. That's dyed wool. Kidam rinon mideshash kisna tchelas amra. I'm not sure how to pronounce these words exactly, but mideshesh, sheish moser. Sheish is ksoines, meaning it's flax, and tchelas is wool. So it's not just something dyed blue; it's bedafka wool that's dyed blue. For Abanon or Isamoisoi kol chad lechudei mashma. Each one is an individual mitzvah. So according to Rabbi, it's one big mitzvah, and if you don't have everything, you weren't makayim that one big mitzvah. And according to the Rabbanon, they're individual mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah of tchelas, and there's a mitzvah of min kanof, and each one is independent. Zok to Gemara, lema doloi kerebi. So let's suggest that our Mishnah is not consistent with Rabbi, because our Mishnah says b'feirish tchelas einam makavis is a lavan, v'alavan einam makavis is a tchelas. According to Rabbi, it's one mitzvah. Avada would be makav. Zok to Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, afilu tema Rabbi. You can even say that our Mishnah is going to Rabbi. Lo nitzrucha ela lekadem. Our Mishnah, when it says tchelas na makav shalavan, it doesn't mean that if there's no tchelas at all, it would be kosher. It just means that you're supposed to put in first the min kanof, first the two white threads, and then you're supposed to put in the two blue threads. What if I did it the other way around? Zokt Rebbe, Zokt our Mishnah, even according to Rebbe, it would still be acceptable. Zokt Rashi, Lanitzrucha masnisin de katani, ein makvin zeseh, ela lahaktim. Avada, you need all four. But shem hiktim hama ucher, tahanu tchelas, if you put in the tchelas into the baguette before you put in the strings of white, the lavan ksiberesha, it says hakanaf min knof, and therefore vim hiktim at tchelas, es halavan, ein makevis. That won't be a problem according to Rebbe. The ein tzarich livsoik at tchelas elayitin alavan achrov. You don't have to take the tchelas out and start over again. Just put in the lavan after you put in the tchelas. The Tanya we learned in the Brisa, mitzvah lahaktim lavan letchelas. When you're putting the tzitzis in, the mitzvah is first to put in the lavan and then the tchelas. But ve'im hiktim tchelas lelavan yotza. But if you put the tchelas first, you will be yotza. Ela shechisar mitzvah, except that you missed out on the mitzvah. So now, for the Gemara, my chisar mitzvah. What mitzvah exactly did you miss out on? If it's going to be kosher or tzitzis, what exactly did you miss out on? So Tosfos has a very important question over here. If the Torah is makbid on the order, as the Gemara is saying now, Tamer Freik Tosfos, Kivan the Mikra, who did our Shinon, the Lavan Bereisha, the Torah tells us that the Lavan is first, right? We're learning it out of Min Kadaf and then Psot Chelas. So if that's the case, name of the Ma'akiv. So why would you say it's not Ma'akiv? It's a requirement in the Torah. This is not Kachim, where the Torah has to repeat itself in order for it to be Ma'akiv. The Loi Be'inon, the Shana HaKosov La'akiv, Elu B'Kachim. V'yashloimer Zok Tosfos, the last lon lemeimar ta'aseder levad yakpid hakosov la'akiv. It's hard to say that the Torah would mean that the order in which you place it in, it would be mamish ma'akiv even b'di'evet. Kamoy gaba chalitza, where it says hiktim rikika l'chalitza masha asa asoi. Even by chalitza, if you do it out of order, it will still be good. V'yalva gav d'chsiv kacha ikuva. The normal way to understand psukim is that this is the prescribed way, but if you do it in a different way, as long as you have all the components there, it will still be kosher. So just like by chalitza, even though it says kocha, do it this way, if you did it a different way, it's understood that it would be kosher anyway. So too by tzitzis, yes, the Torah says how to do it, the order in which to do it, but it will not be ma'akiv. So Zog to Gemara, what mitzvah exactly did you miss out by doing it out of order? Ilema chiser mitzvah de lovan, v'kayim mitzvah de tchelas. If you're going to suggest that you lost the mitzvah of lovan, but you were only mekayim the mitzvah of chelas, according to Rebbe, you couldn't possibly learn pshat in the brayso that way, because according to Rebbe, it's one big mitzvah. Le Rebbe ikuva ma'akev hadodi. Zok Rashi. Ilema chiser mitzvah de lovan. It's as if you were missing the lavan. We just wanted to say now that we're going according to Rebbe. So according to Rebbe, what does it mean that you missed a mitzvah? If you missed a mitzvah, then you don't have kosher tzitzis over here. Zok to Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. What it means is shechiser mitzvah the asa mitzvah. He lost out a mitzvah, but he did a mitzvah. Which mitzvah did he miss? So Rashi chiser mitzvah, the mitzvah of akdama. The order of how to place the tzitzis in the beged is a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah that he lost. But the asa mitzvah, the ha'ika lavanu tchelas. He did fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzis because he does have all of the components here. Zok Gemara, umay chiser mitzvah, the lo'avad mitzvah min amufcher. The mitzvah min amufcher would have been to put it into order. Frek the Gemara, what does the brayso say? We have to focus on the words of the brayso. The brayso says, the Mishnah says, tchelas eino ma'akeves es halavan, va'alavan eino ma'akev tchelas. We want to say this is going according to Rebbe, and we're saying if you did it out of order, it won't be ma'akev, right? That's how we're learning pshat in our Mishnah according to Rebbe. So let's drill down a little bit to see if this really makes sense. It makes sense, the words of the Mishnah, that Lavan is not ma'akev tchelas. Meaning, if you didn't put the Lavan in, the tchelas will still be kosher. But tchelas, meaning, if it's talking about saying you don't have to put it in at all, and you don't learn like Rebbe, everything is smooth both ways. But if you're going to learn, it's only a question of what you did first, and Lavan is supposed to go first, so then it makes sense to say Lavan is not ma'akev tchelas, meaning if you put in the tchelas first, the tchelas will still be kosher, even though you didn't put the Lavan in first. But what do you mean tchelas, the ein mekebes is a Lavan? If you didn't put in the Lavan first, it'll be kosher? Of course it'll be kosher. That's exactly the order in which you're supposed to put it in, lechatchila. So therefore, if you're learning our Mishnah like Rebbe, tchelas the eina ma'akeves es halavan mahi. That's exactly how it's supposed to be done. As Rashi says, tchelas the eina ma'akeves lavan mahi. The mashram hiktim lavan. To mashram, the problem would be if you put the lavan first. But umay ikol meimer. That's exactly how it is supposed to be done lechatchila. Okay. Zog to Gemara, Amar Rami Bar Chama, Uloi nitzricha elo letalis shetchulat chelas. We need this for talis shetchulat chelas. Because if it's kulat chelas, then what is the min kanaf? The min kanaf is also blue. So there, if you put in lavan before you put in blue, that's where it would be out of order. Now the question you have to ask is, what do you mean if you put in lavan before you put in blue? If it's min tchelas, right? If it's min kanaf and tchelas, so you should do all four of tchelas, right? Right? So that's the problem we're going to be running into a little bit, which we're going to discuss shortly. Where the tchelas is the min kanaf. If you notice, Rashi doesn't even look at this Gemara. Rashi doesn't even mention this Gemara, because Rashi takes this gears out. Rashi doesn't discuss this till much later in the same Gemara here, where someone else brings this up. Itmar, Nami, Amr Le Levi L'Shmuel. Levi told Shmuel, Aryech, king. He referred to Shmuel as a king, as Rashi says. Actually, let's see Rashi. Itmanami Masnisin the Kotani, Tchelas. And we're saying, according to Rabbi Tzlahaktim, V'boyle Nami Tchelas, the Ein Ma'akav Lavan Mahi. About this discussion, we had a shaila about this discussion. Exactly what does it mean that the Lavan is not ma'akev, that the Tchelas is not ma'akev as a Lavan? What does it mean? Aryeh Loshen Melech K'may Gur Aryeh Yehuda. Lehachi kari l'Shmuel Aryech. Why was Shmuel referred to as an Aryech, as a king? The kaim alon halacha k'Shmuel bedini, because we pass on Shmuel by Choshe Mishpat kihechi the dina the malchus dina. Okay, zog to Gemara weiter. So what did Levi tell Shmuel? Loi tesev akarach. I don't want you to sit down and relax until Adam afarshes li la milsa. You need to figure out pshat in the Mishnah. Hatchelas enu makeves es halavon, v'halavon enu makeves hatchelas. Our question, my he, what is it referring to? Amar lei lo nitzrucha elo lisadin b'tzitzis. The mitzvah lakdume lavon bereisha. It's telling you that if you had sadin, and Rashi tells us what's the importance of sadin, lachinakat sadin mishum de lavanu. If you had a white beged, the mitzvah lakdume lavon bereisha, that there's a mitzvah to put the white first. My taima hakanof min kanof, referring to white. But if you put in the tchelas first, less lonba. So that's how Shmuel was mefarish that the lavon is not ma'akev the tchelas. You were supposed to put in the lavon first because normally the begodim were made out of white. And that's what the Torah means. Put in the white first. If you put in the blue first, it wouldn't pass. Zokt Gemara. Okay, that's one half of the note. Teinach lavan the einamakav is a tchelas. That's good. But back to our original question, tchelas the einamakav is a lavan maihi. Where do you have tchelas is not ma'akev the lavan when you're supposed to put in the lavan first? So how would tchelas possibly be ma'akev the lavan? Amar lei Rabbi Bar Chama. Loi nisrucha elo letales shetchula tchelas. If your talis was made fully out of tchelas, the mitzvah lakdumei tchelas bereisha. There, the mitzvah would have been to put in the tchelas first. The hakanaf min kanaf, because it says hakanaf psul tchelas. First, put in the min kanaf, which would be blue. The aktim lavan bereisha. If you put in the white threads first, less lonba. So again, we have the same question we had a moment ago. If the whole beged was tchelas, so then why wouldn't all four threads be tchelas? The teretz is because Rashi learns that when the Torah says min kanaf, it doesn't mean make it the same color, material as the beged. It means white, because since Rave begodim are white, sodden is normally white, therefore you always need to have white. Frek the Gemara, Amar Rava, is that true? Midi tziva kagarim? As Rashi says, afilu kula tchelas nami mitzvah lahaktim lovan tchelas. Even if it's kulay tchelas, don't tell me that you're really supposed to put in the blue first and then the white. That's not true. Because afilu kulay tchelas, Rava, nami mitzvah lahaktim lovan tchelas. You should still put in the lovan first, because the lovan are more min knof than the tchelas is. Why? Hoyel v'roiv talisois levam. So therefore, lovan kagarim. The lashon v'nasati alakon of min knaf, it doesn't mean literally whatever the beged's made out of. It means white. That's what the Torah is telling you. It means white. So the white has to go first. So once again, there's no problem over here. You're always supposed to put the white first. So don't tell me if you put the white first instead of the tchelas, that's a problem. So that's not a problem. So Amar Rava midi tzivik agarim. Afilu kula tchelas nami mitzvah lahaktim lovan l'tchelas. You're always supposed to put the lovan before the tchelas. So what does it mean that the tchelas is not ma'akiv the lovan? Ela Amar Rava lo nitzrucha ela ligardumin. We're referring to a case where it was nifseku hachuten shotzitzes. The case here is that two of your strings got torn. The igardum tchelas v'koi lovan v'igardim lavan v'koy tchelas laslamba. The Mishnah is not at all referring to the order, because the only issue is if you put the tchelas first, that would be a b'di'evet. But you're supposed to put the lavan first all the time, even in a beggar chukul tchelas. What the Mishnah means when it says tchelas is not makav the lavan, lavan is not makav the tchelas, is even though when you put the tzitzis in, you have to have the full strings, but after you put them in, if the strings got cut, the tchelas wouldn't be ma'akav the lavan, and the lavan wouldn't be ma'akav the tchelas. So according to...
What's the amount?
I'm sorry?
What's the amount of strings have to do with the colors?
Very good. The point is, according to Rebbe, that it's one big mitzvah, so as long as you have two strings, it'll be mekayim mitzvah. As long as your lavan is there, it'll cover for you. But according to the Rabbanon, where it's two separate mitzvahs, the lavan can't cover for the tchelas, and the tchelas can't cover for the lavan because they're two separate mitzvahs. But if it's one mitzvah, we could say as long as you have 2 out of 4 remaining, the mitzvah is still mekuyim. And that's a big issue that we're going to get into. That's what our long Torah is about, that we're going to have to learn, because it's very much in the pshat of the Gemara. So let's look at Rashi. Igardem nivzegu achut shel tzitzis. Okay. The Amir b'nei Rab Chia, because b'nei Rab Chia said, Gardume tchelas ksherin, the gardume tchelas are ksherin, meaning if the tchelas strings got chopped off, they're kosher, and we need to know exactly where they got chopped off. The gardume ezov ksherin, and if the ezov with which you spritz the mayim of the paraduma on the tamei, they also got chopped off, it would be tar. It would be kosher. Now the question is, v'cham shir gedumim, so how much has to be left over? So let's put that aside for just a moment. Zokt Rashi, let's see Tosfos. We have a little bit of time, so let's do Tosfos. Loi nitzracha ela lesadin betzitzes. So right away, what Shmuel said is, when we say that the lavan is not ma'akav the tchelas, it means if you had a white baggage, you're supposed to put in the white threads first. Tema fraktosis amai nochet hachi. Linkait talis tzemer betzitzes. Why did he use the word sadin and not tzemer? So Rashi tells us right away, l'hachi naked sadin mishum de lavantu, because normally sadin is white, and therefore the point is white. V'yesh mefarshim davko tcheles loy have a min de sadin. You know why tcheles is not min de sadin? Mishum de have a klayim gabei. Because sadin is linen, and tcheles is wool. So tcheles is not min de sadin because it's climb if you put them together. Aval tzemer utcheles, but if you had white wool and blue wool, haveminoi, and therefore there wouldn't be climb there. V'lavan nami de tanya le'il mi pishtoin have. And the lavan that we learned earlier is also referring to pishton. So the loynitra el lasadin betzitzes, meaning if you had klayim, that's where it would be a nafkamina. The kasha freik toishvis demkein my kashalei. So then I don't understand what is the Gemara's kasha. Teinach lavan einoi ma'akav et chelas. I understand why lavan is not ma'akav et chelas. Elat chelas eine ma'akeves es halavan my ninu. The Gemara asked, why? What does it mean that chelas is not ma'akev the lavan? Umay pircha. I don't understand. What's the question? Ha nami mishkachas la dat chelas v'tzemer chad mino have. If tchelas and tzemer is both wool, so then the eine ma'akeves chutei lavan. So then, in fact, the tchelas will not be ma'akev the chutei lavan because they were both made out of the same material and they're not chatlas. Iname chute pishtan l'mayda b'shtila kaman chute pishtan poitrim b'shal tzemer. If you hold, you're allowed to put it on. L'kach nir kepir shakundris the lahachi nochet sadin the pshita da'ava lavan v'lavan shal tzemer hava mitzdarf l'pishtan tvei. So Tosfos wanted to say that the problem is a question of kalayim. It's the wrong min. That's not the discussion here. The discussion is the color, which Rashi says clearly is the whole meaning of the comment of sadin betzitzes. So we're not discussing an issue that is not the right material. We're discussing the issue of the color. Frek the Gemara midi tzive kagarim. And Rashi learned, Midi Tzivik Hagarim is no matter what, the white always has to go first. So how would you be able to say, even in a beged that's kulat tchelas, how would you say that the tchelas string should go in first, that the blue string should go in first? Mashma sheraitza b'kundris lefarish mishum dekra b'roiv talisais iri. Rashi clearly said that the pasuk is speaking about roiv talisais, and the Torah doesn't literally mean it should be min kanaf. It means the string should be white. The first string should be white. Shehein levenus. Ve'enon tzvuyas tchelas. The kivun dechsir akanaf min kanaf have ki'ilu kasav behedya. It's as if the pasuk said beferish tein shnei chutei lovan tchila. The Torah is saying alakanaf, meaning always put in the two white strings first into your beged, and only the achakach psil techelas, and then only after that put the techelas in. For tzarech leimer, we're going to have to say the way Rashi understood the stam talisas shalahem. No, talisas in those days, hoyugami sharminim. They were made out of other materials. They might have been strictly made out of white, but they were made out of other materials. The Rava hu didarish lekaman midechsiv hakanaf min knaf the shar minim b'minim poitron. That no matter what the material was made out of, you could make strings out of that material. They don't always have to be wool threads. But here the discussion is, where it's dafka min kanaf, it's referring to the color. Okay, let's go weiter. The rest of this will get a little bit involved. So Zaktamar Ella Legardumin, it's telling us that even if they got chopped off, they're going to be kosher. So now the question is, how much do we need? Zok to Gemara, V'chama shir gardumin. How much do you have to have left off? Zok to Gemara, Amar Bar Hamduri, Amar Shmuel, Kedei la'anvan. You need enough that you can make a boastel, a little. Well, they show a picture of it looks like a slip knot as well. Yeah, you have to have enough that you can make a certain type of knot with the remaining string, so that would be considered enough. Ibailu. So the Gemara has a shaila. When you say that you have to be able to make it into a knot, kidei la'anvan, meaning la'anvan kuli be'adodi, to make a knot with all of the four strings together, which would naturally require more length, or maybe it means just enough to be able to knot one single thread. That would be a little less. And the Gemara says teiku. So we're not sure if your tzitzis got cut short, how much has to be left. Boy Ravashi. Now, right now, I'm imagining that where did your tzitzis get cut? Did it get cut after the knots? And you're talking about the strings hanging down? So that's what we're going to assume now, but that assumption might be shattered. But for now, we're talking about after the last knot, that's where it got cut short. Boy Ravashi. Alimi the loy ma'anvi. What if they're very thick threads that are hard? If it was a normal sized thread, let's say an inch would be enough. But it's a very thick thread, and because of that, it's not enough. If you have a katini ma'anvi, but if it would have been thinner thread, you would have been able to make that knot. My what's halacha? Kol shekain the minker mitzvasayu. That's sure kosher, even though you can't physically make the knot, because there's more of a prominent presence of that little remaining cut-off thread. Zog to Gemara, Uman Tana the Polagalei de Rebbe. Who is the Tana that argues on Rebbe and says that the Tcheles by itself would be good, or the Lovan by itself would be good? Who is that Tana? Zog to Gemara, Hi Tana, who the Tanya Reb Yitzchak, Omer Mishum Reb Noson, Shama Mishum Reb Yosy Aglili, Shama Mishum Reb Yochanan ben Nuri, Ein loy tchelas matil lavan. If you don't have tchelas, you can use lavan instead, which is exactly what we do. We don't pass like Rebbe. Toshis is going to speak out because Allah ke Rebbe mechaveiroi v'loy mechaveirov. Here Rebbe is outnumbered. Plus Rebbe Yosy Aglili was his Rebbe, and we pass like Rebbe Yosy Aglili that yes, even if you don't have tchelas, your tzitzis are going to be kosher.
So we're for sure not saying that 2 is okay. You need 4. The question is if you can have all 4 white.
That's how Rashi learns. Right? That's how Rashi learns. Right? Toshus then don't so push. There's a long Toshus to learn. But that's how Rashi learns.
It says beferish.
Where does Toshus finish?
England Tchelis Mantel Lovin.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean instead of. Rashi says Mata Lovin is Kolat Alat Chutin, but not everybody necessarily learns like that. Zogt Gemara weiter. Omer Rava. Shema Mina. From here we see that Tzorech Likshor Al Kol Chulya V'Chulya. Meaning, we have multiple sets of knots, right? We put the string through, we make a knot, then we wrap around, we make another knot, wrap around, make another knot. You need multiple sets of knots. The Solkadai, the Chloit Tzorech, if you hold, you just did all the wraps, and you made only one knot all the way at the end. Well, Had Amar B'nei Rab Chia, that Gardume Tchelas is Ksherin, the Gardume Ezev is Ksherin, if there's only one knot at the end, given the Ishtra Eloi, since the top knot, and Rashi and Tosfos, everyone knows the top knot means the bottom knot, the knot that's furthest away from the beged, right before they become individual strings. If that opens up, Ishtra Lekule, the whole thing is going to open up and going to fall apart. So Zokt Rashi, Shema Mina, Mida Amri B'nei Rab Chia, Gardume Tcheles is Ksherin, even though it's chopped off, it's still kosher. Amai, Hakiva the Nivsak Ktsas, once it gets cut short, Hagdil Mystery Hahu Kesher Shabasayf Hagdil. That's going to allow that knot to become undone. The Chiva and the Mystery Hahu Kesher, and if that Kesher gets unknotted, which is the only knot there, Mystery Hagdil, the whole Gdil is going to fall apart, the whole bunch is going to fall apart, because there's no knot left to keep it together. The Ein Shem Gedil Klal. Elishmamina, it must be that there were more knots there. Elishmamina, Yesh Kesher B'Kol Cholya, therefore, Hilach Ki Mishtri Yahu Kesher, even though that bottom knot will become undone because the little left in that string won't be enough to stop the knot from getting undone, Miskayim Hagdil B'Shar Kshar. That's how Rashi learns. Eloi, Hainu Hahu Kesher Tachtoin, Eloi means the bottom knot right before they go to individual threads. The milamata lamayla kachoshev. We're starting from the knot at the bottom, and then we're calling that the top. V'oy de begardumim kamari b'shmaitin uvergardumi mukafin havo iu elyon. I'm not sure how it makes it elyon, but it's referring to that bottom knot. Let me see what Ois Mem says. Yeah, if you pick it up to look at it, so then the knot at the bottom is going to be on top. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara, what's the raya? What's the raya? Maybe you don't need a knot at the bottom. Dilma the iktar. You don't need more than one knot. But maybe when B'nei Rab Chia said that if you have a small bit of string left, it'll still be good, it's punked in a case where you had multiple knots. So Avada, you don't need multiple knots. How could the B'nei Rab Chia be machshir if it got cut short? Maybe they're machshir if you happen to have made more knots. But lav dafka, that's the way it always has to be. Okay. V'omer Rabba, Zok Rabba, Shemami no Yosy Amir, that Kesher Elyon Dairaisa, that Kesher at the bottom is Dairaisa, the Solkadach Darabanon, if you hold it to me Darabanon, my Istrich Lemishri Sadin Betzitzis, why do we need to be matter Sadin Betzitzis? It says like Silba Shabbos. Why would we need a special pasuk to tell us that it's mutter to put in tzitzis even though they're shatnez, right? Because we have two psukim together, like Shil B'Shabbos, and right near it says Gedilim Tasalacha, and from there we know that the tzitzis will be doicha the Yisr Klayim. Why would I need it? Pshita, you don't need it because it's not shatnez if you just have strings together. If they're tied together, then they're shatnez. Pshita, hataykif kiva achas einei chibur. So it must be the way you make the tzitzis have to be in such a way where it's knotted, and therefore it would normally violate shatnez elishmami no deraisa. Okay, so that is the sugya, but we have a massive problem with Shitas Rashi on this sugya that Tosfos asks on. So Zokt Tosfos, Pirish Bekuntris. I'm looking at the second to the last Tosfos. Pirish Bekuntris, Mitoich Pirish Kuntris, from from this Rashi's pshat besamach gabi hada muchach rava, from what we just learned on the Amud Aleph, where Rava brought a riot. The tzarech likshar al kol cholya v'cholya, you need multiple knots, because if not, it would fall apart. V'chimen a mishteri Eloi, mishteri kulu, upirish. And therefore Rashi said, lesle hada amr la'il k'dei shir aniva. Tosfos has a problem. Rashi says you have to have multiple knots. Why? Because you didn't have multiple knots, it would fall apart. Right? Why would it fall apart? You have an inch. If you have Kedei Aniva after the last knot, why would it not fall apart? If it's cut right up to the knot, so then the knot would come out. So how is Rashi understanding if you have to leave Kedei Aniva, which is what the Gemara said over here, if you had to leave Kedei Aniva, why in the world would the knot come out? Now, let's be clear here. Who said you need Kedei Aniva? It was not the Bnei Reb Chia. The Bnei Reb Chia just says Gadum Etcheles Ksherin. What happened is when they wanted to know how much, it was Bar Hamduri said in the name of Shmuel Kedei Anvan. That's not what Reb Chia said. So maybe you can learn Pshat in Reb Chia that Gadum Etcheles Ksherin, even if it's cut right at the knot. So Zok Tosfos, it must be that Rashi learns that Rava disagreed with Mahamduri. So Pirish Leslie Hadam Il Kedei Sher Niva, it must be that he disagrees, and you don't need a Sher Niva. Mashu the Svirle da Niva Chutz L'Kesher Achrain Shabbatzitzes. So based on that, you have to say that Rashi understands that the whole discussion is where did the tzitzis get cut short after the last knot, and Rashi also learns that Rava would disagree with Baram Duri and says that when the Bnei Reb Chia said you can cut it short, if it's cut short, it can be cut right up to the knot. So then Rava says if it's cut right up to the knot, chances are that knot will become undone, and then there's no gedil, and therefore it must be that there are multiple knots. Zok Tosfos, I don't think that's pshat. V'yitachin Yosy lefarish, the shir aniva is samech l'ktav k'amar. We're not talking about after the knot is where it tore. We're saying it got cut right out of the hole of the tzitzis. That's all I want to learn. Now, if you learn like that, v'hashta lo'polagadalil. So now there's no machlekes. Everybody would agree you need kedei aniva, but kedei aniva where there's no knot would avada make the thing fall apart.
Is there ever enough kedei aniva on top of it?
Yeah, well, if you even when my tzitzis goes through a hole, there's about an inch until the spinning starts.
When you're making the tzitzis, you have to leave it that long?
No, you don't have to leave it, but if it gets cut, yeah. V'chein mashma ktsas b'sefri b'parshas Gedilim. Pamed davar amurim b'tchila, aval b'shirayim gardumim kol shehu mashma dagdilim koi. This is going on the Gedilim, and by the Gedilim you only need a kol shehu. You only need kedei aniva if it's right at the hole. V'chein ir lechichkom. So that is the machlokes. V'chein ir lechich misham shakesher hu min hadalad el dalad. So now we're talking about a new thing, how you make it. So Zok Tosfos, the way you make the tzitzis is when you make the first knot, how do you do the knot? We take 4 strings from either side of the hole, and we tie the 4 strings to the 4 strings. We make a knot out of the 4 strings. Zokt Rabbeinu Tam, that's how I think you're supposed to make tzitzis, which is the way we do it. The imuchud akricha, the echad menachuten, oh, forget it. If you do like Rabbeinu Tam, what Rabbeinu Tam did was he said, don't take your two sides of 4 and tie them together. No, just take one, the longer one that you're going to wrap around. Take that one and make a knot with another string, but don't make all 4 in the knots. Because if you did that, like Rabbeinu Tam said, then if one of the chutin that is in the inside, not from the ones that wrap around, how would the knot fall apart? From the fact that the Gemara says that if any one of these chutin got cut short, it would fall apart. Why would it not fall apart if the string that got corn is not even part of the knot? It must be that all of them are part of the knot. The Bishlama min hadalad ladalad, then kishnifsach echad midalad ve'enim akasher soiser akasher. If all four are in the knot and one of them got cut very short, it'll start getting loose. It'll loosen up the whole knot. But if it's only one string gets tied into a knot, then why would there be a problem with the other strings? The mistama akati kaima aval echad suleikai. I'm not sure what Tosfos is saying, but I'll call upon him. Tosfos is saying the way we make our tzitzis today is how you're supposed to. You put your four strings through the hole, and then you tie the four strings together, and that is the knot. Okay, let's stop here, and we'll be mamshech tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm only going to be on Zoom. I'm not going to be here in person.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.